Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today, as you can see from the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about engine flushing after an oil change. So, it's not should you do it, you should definitely do it, but what I want to tell you is I think you shouldn't use engine flush, and I'll tell you why. But before we do that, I'll give a brief reason as to why you should always flush your oil during an oil change, and then why I believe you shouldn't use engine flush specific, and then why I believe you should use engine oil as on a flush. So, quick reason why you should always flush the oil. When you come to do an oil service on your vehicle, obviously you warm it up, you then drain the oil, you take your oil filter out, and once it stops dripping, you put the sump plug back in, you put a new oil filter in, and you would put your oil in. Now, the problem with that is there's old engine oil all over the inside of your engine still. No matter how hard you try, there's still quite a lot of it in your engine, whether it's in the cooler, it's trapped in the top of the motor, in the little galleries, even in the sump, there's still oil in there. You'll never get it all out. Now, you obviously want as much of that out as possible, hence you flush your oil when you do an oil change. So, the reason I believe you shouldn't use oil flush, and it sounds worse than it is. It's okay if you're either on a low mileage car, or you've been doing it since new, or the vehicle has been done since new, because that way it doesn't matter, because the engine is basically used to it, and so it's not a problem. The reason it could be a problem is all modern oil flushes now are very, very good at what they do, and that is remove carbon from your engine, which you think to yourself, that's a great idea. Actually, it isn't such a great idea, especially on the mid to high mileage cars, because on the mid to high mileage cars, you have lots of rubber seals and O-rings that have got carbon buildup on them, and you think, well, yeah, I don't want that in my engine. But actually, yes, you do, because what they are now doing, for some of it anyway, is it's sealing those rubber seals. So for example, then on a valve stem seal, it's a little tiny rubber seal, and the valve goes up and down inside it, and it stops oil running down inside the engine and getting burnt and creating blue smoke. So with an engine flush, you get carbon buildup on these seals, and they go hard and brittle. So what happens if you flush it? The engine flush does a great job, and it cleans all that baked on carbon off. But what it's also done is taken that seal out. So behind or underneath that carbon seal that was there is little tiny micro scratches and like pits in those rubber seals that is now open to the elements and open to your engine oil. So then that's all gone. You think great. And then overnight, now that carbon's not there blocking it, your engine oil can now very lightly weep down through that seal onto the back of the valve and into the engine. So when you start your car, you get a puff of blue smoke. And that's because you've actually unsealed it. So in a lot of times, you actually do more damage than good by using a dedicated engine flush. Now, I'm not saying it's a blanket, never use it, it's rubbish. It is amazing. They are very, very good at what they do. And that is my problem. So also, when you use an engine flush, no matter how hard you try, when you drain it out of your car, there's still flush left in the engine when you put your new oil in. So it's still in there. Very, very diluted, but you can't get rid of it all. So it's still in there doing its work. So again, if you've done it from new, it doesn't matter, because it's always been, the carbon's never got built up, so it's not such an issue. But definitely on a mid to high mileage cars, if it's not been used before, I don't recommend using it. Where on the other hand, if you use engine oil as a flush, none of those problems. So what I do my usual oil and filter, dump all the engine oil out when it's warm, take the oil filter out, drain it, put the old oil filter back in, then I would buy like a cheap oil of the exact same grade of oil that you normally put in your car. So I always use the highest quality oil I can buy for my car, because it's the blood of the engine, it's what keeps your car good. So I just spend as much money as I can on oil for my car, and I change it a lot more regularly than my service intervals. My service interval on my Audi, I think it's about 15,000 miles. I do it every 6,000 miles, maybe 7 at the latest. So I just like good oil in my car. It's just good working practice for me. So anyway, that is my own personal choice. So what I do, when I do an oil change, I get the correct grade oil for my car. So it's the C3, it's 530 fully synthetic, but as cheap as I can buy, just purely because I want to wash all of the rubbish out of my engine without harming anything. So I get the cheapest, the correct, like a 530 fully synthetic, and a C3, which is what the Audi takes, but just cheap. Then I put 3 or 4 litres of it into my car, put the old oil filter back in, sun plug back on, run it for 20 to 30 minutes so it's nice and hot, nice and thin, and then I dump that straight back out again. Now, you wouldn't believe the colour of that oil when it comes out, considering it's been in the engine no more than half an hour and it's black. And that's because it's picked up all that rubbish oil that was trapped in all the different places. So then I dump that out, and I know it seems wasteful, but for me, I like a clean engine oil. So then sun plug back in when it's finished dripping, brand new oil filter goes in, do everything up and put your higher grade oil, or whatever oil you are putting in your car, in and top it off. That way you've not taken anything out of the engine that shouldn't be coming out or is going to do more harm than good, and it's not cost an awful lot more, and you're only running the equivalent grade oil through your car, so it's not like you're doing any harm to it like that, and it's mixing with another equally same grade oil, just of a higher quality, which just means it has more additives in it, so you're not doing any extra harm to the motor, but what you are getting is a very clean engine in the process. And to the point I get that when I check my oil 2 or 3 months down the line, it's still clean. So it takes a lot longer to get dirty if you do it this way. So I hope this has helped you guys, and let me know in the comments if you do the same or you disagree. You know, we all have our own ideas. I'm not saying I'm right. This is what I believe. So yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.